Hey everyone, thanks for joining our Day 3 Beginner Java session offered by Hackathon for Kids. Today we'll be going over the command line interface, how the actual Java program compilation process works, and how to get input from the user. So most of you are familiar with the GUI, graphical user interface, GUI, however you like to pronounce it. That's basically this whole interface where you can run programs using this nice looking environment for you, right? Another way to do this is by using the command line interface or command prompt, or there are many different versions for it. That's on Windows. On Mac or Linux, it's called terminal. Right, so I'm gonna show you guys how to use this for now. So just keep this open. If you're on with Macs, type in terminal in Spotlight search or whatever you have. I'm on Windows, so you could just type in command prompt if you're on Windows or CMD. So the various commands you have at your disposal are the following. So you can use dir to print out every single folder or file under a certain directory, which is a fancy word for folder. On Mac, you can use ls, which will basically do the same thing. So if this is another person's computer, but if you just type in dir here, you'll be able to see every single file they have under this folder called Srini. CD allows you to go from one folder into a child folder or a folder within a big folder. So I can go inside a folder like idea project using the cd command. I'll show you guys in a second. And then cd dot dot allows you to go back a folder, so you can access maybe folders that are within the same folder, right? So here's the command prompt. I'll open File Explorer, or you can do it on Finder if you guys are on a Mac. But this is basically where all my files are, and you could see how I can go through and create paths using the command line. So over here, like the first command was dir, right? What this does is print out every single folder / file I have under the folder user / Rohan. So right now over here, I'm in just the C colon, right? And then if I go to users and then Rohan, as you can see, every single folder / file in here matches this. That's because I'm in the same directory, which is again a fancy word for folder. So if I want to go inside a specific folder like H4K, what I'm going to do is do cd or change directory H4K. Right now I'm in this new folder, and you could see I have these various files in here. So H4K, I could see I have the same ones here. I'll delete this for now, and I'll show you a magic trick later, right? I'll print this again. I just deleted a class file. Now there's one more missing. The day3.class is now missing because I just deleted that. Show you guys how to do something cool later, right? It involves the whole compilation process. So now you can see that I'm in the same folder in my file explorer as I am in command prompt. So now I'll go over how you can actually create a class file and run a program on your own computer. So most of you guys, you're probably using an online IDE like Replit or JDoodle, which is all cloud-based if they're storing your program somewhere on the cloud. But if you're running your program on your computer, this is really important to know. So like, for example, I have a program here called Day3. Right, so over here is a simple program, prints out I love programming, sets a integer variable to 16, an integer variable called age to 16, and prints out I am blah years old. So we'll print out I am 16 years old. So far, I'm on VS Code right now, so I could just run this program by clicking run code at the top. And then as you can see, it's going to just print out I love programming, I'm 16 years old, right? If you're on a similar IDE, maybe like IntelliJ or something, then there's different areas where you can click run code. But if I want to run the program using command line, there's a specific set of commands you can do to do so, right? So I am in the same folder, like, okay, over here, notice how this day3 program is under the folder I'm currently in on the command line. So this is important. You have to be in the same folder so you can run the program on command line, right? So over here, oh, wrong slide. So over here, the whole compilation process works. Like I have the source code, which I just showed you on VS Code or Visual Studio Code. So the whole idea is that the magic of Java is that you have a source code, right? A .java with like the whole public class, public static void main, your whole printing arguments, right? Something that you can relatively understand, right? Computers understand 0 and 1s. We don't, which is why we have programming languages and we write in source code. So the first step in converting our English, relatively English source code into binary is to compile it. So the first thing we do is take our source code and compile it into an intermediate middleman form called bytecode. What this is, it's stored as a class file, and it is basically a medium between source code and the final binary code that the processor can understand, right? So in order to make the command, which is a set of instructions on our software that can turn this source code into bytecode, this thing is called a compiler. And to use a compiler is called compiling or compile, right? So in order to do this for a certain file, we would type into the command line javac and then name of your program .java, right? So once you have this, you'll create a bytecode file called a .class, which has the suffix .class, right? So over here, right, let me open the program. So over here, I'm going to type in javac. Name of our program is day3.java. I'll open the file explorer too so you can see what happens. So this day3, which is a java.java file, we're going to compile it into a .class file so it can be interpreted by the JVM, which I'll explain in a second. So what we do is we click enter, and now we have compiled it. As you can see, this thing just showed up. This is a .class file, which is basically full of bytecode, right? If you open up, it'll show a bunch of gibberish. So there's no point in doing that. But anyways, now what we have is a .class file, which we're going to run. In order to do that, all we have to do is type in Java space day3. And now we'll just print out, I love programming, I'm 16 years old. So what this did basically is, so we first turned our source code, our Java program called day3.java, into a .class file using a compiler. The compiler's name is javac, Java compiler, and now we have a .class file, right? It's not binary yet. The processor still doesn't know what it is, but there's another step called the interpretation of the bytecode into binary using the JVM. So what the JVM does, or Java Virtual Machine, what it does is it will simultaneously, while reading the program, convert it into binary code so the processor can understand, right? So the whole process, to put it simply, relatively simply, is take our original Java program, our English version of our program, compile it, put it into a .class file, and now we have that stored on our computer, and now we can run it whenever we want. Now, to run this whenever we want, all we have to do is type in Java space the name of our program. We're not going to end it with .java. Like, notice how in the we didn't have the .java extension while we're running the actual program. While we're using the JVM to convert into binary, we're just putting Java space day3 over here. We have the extension over here. We don't. So yeah, we have this, our Java program, into our source code, into .class, into binary. And so like it's a relatively complex process compared to other programming languages, but it is one of the main things that makes Java really efficient in the real world. So now back to actual programming. So the scanner class is basically a way for us to get input from the user. There's a lot of specific things, a lot of giant jargon you need to know to actually understand how the scanner class works. But we're going to go over that in the actual intermediate session of our course. But for now, we're just going to go over how you can get input from the user using the whole, just all the like methods and stuff provided in the scanner class. But if you don't understand why we're doing this dot next int, all this stuff, that's okay, right? So now I'll go over what all these stuff means in, I'll give a brief overview, but we'll go over it more, like I said, in the intermediate session next week, right? So at the top of our Java program, we're going to write import.java.util.scanner. What this means is that someone else has made a program for us to get input from the user. It's a bunch of instructions that we don't have to necessarily type out on our own. It's already been made for us. All we have to do is type a few words and then like a few lines of code, and then it would be able to access the code someone else has written and use that and like borrow its all its functionality for our own purposes, right? So yeah, so the first step is to import it. So we're just getting someone else's code that's already been stored in our Java folders. So we're going to import that into our own program, and then we're going to type this scanner keyboard equals new scanner, and then we're going to pass in we're going to put system.in as an argument, or like in between these parentheses for now, right? The name keyboard doesn't really matter. It's just a placeholder. It's a variable, right? Like age or name or something, right? Scanner, this is the data type, like that's been made by someone else. We're familiar with int, double, char, that type of stuff, right? But for now, we're just going to put scanner in there because that's what allows us to get input from the user. And then we're going to store input from the user according to a certain data type. So if you want to get an integer from the user, we would type in keyboard, or if you're doing a different variable, you'd put like whatever variable that name is over here, dot next int. This is the I, dot next int, open, close parentheses. Then it was going to wait for a response from the user and then put that into this variable. Over here, we have a string, which is basically a bunch of characters grouped together, a collection of characters, right? And then we're going to do keyboard dot next line, open and close parentheses, and that will going to store whatever they put inside the command line or as their argument on replit, whatever, into our string variable, right? So I could do this on VS Code, but doing it on replit is a lot easier. So, oh no, I don't have dark mode. That's okay, whatever. So what we're going to do is create our first variable, maybe like int a equals 3. Maybe just see if it's working, right? So all right, it'll take a bit. So while we're doing that, I'll just create the format for the whole program, right? So we're going to type in, yeah, so that worked. So here we're going to import our scanner class. We're going to import java.util.scanner. So what this does, we collected someone else's program, someone else's Java program, and put it into our own, so we can use what they've done instead of rewriting everything, right? So what we're going to do is create our scanner variable, which allows us to get input from the user. So I'm going to call it in. That's convention I do. Many people do that, right? And then we're going to do new scanner system, system.in, right? We'll go over why next week with intermediate session. And if you want to get like input like a name, or we'll do an age. So someone's age. Here. So int age, we're going to collect someone's age, which is an integer, and we're going to do this. Age equals in.nextInt. So what this is going to do is wait for the user to enter some value that we're going to store in here. So we're actually just going to print out you are age years old, right? As if they didn't know. I'm actually going to make it a little more user-friendly by asking them to enter their age. So ask them, what is your age? That's kind of robotic. How old are you? Now we're going to wait for the user to input their age. Oh, it's going to put hello world in the beginning. That's okay. You can remove that for later. So I'm going to put, I'm 16 years old. So I'm going to put 16, and that's going to print out you are 16 years old. So we successfully got input and outputted it back to the user. So there are many problems you could do. In the actual classes, we'll give you a bunch and make sure you understand, and we can answer all the questions you have. But for now, we're going to create a program that calculates the area of a rectangle using the length and width provided by the user. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is the following. So we're going to get two numbers. No, I could comment this out so you guys can use it for reference. Pause the video if you guys want to try it out on your own. So here we go. So what we're going to do is maybe ask for the, you don't need this particular step, it just makes it nicer for the user. So we're going to type in length, right? Then we're going to wait for input from the user. I'll just call that in.next int. Then we're going to ask them for the width. Keep being enter early. And then lastly, we're just going to print out the total area of the rectangle. So what we're going to do is just do this. You guys didn't know the area of a rectangle is the length times the width, right? So that should be it. We're going to prompt them for the length, and then prompt them for the width, and then multiply them together. So the length, I'm going to put 10, width is 20, the area is 200, right? We don't need the units, that doesn't matter, right? I mean, it does, but it's fine, whatever. Right, so this is how you can basically get input and then use it for your own purposes. If you want to get the string, like a string, all you would have to do is do string, maybe, you want to get their names, you do string name equals in.next line. If you're on Replit, it's really user-friendly, so it'll just show up for you, next line, and then you could gather the name of a user. There's many other things you could use, like double, next double, if I get like cost of an item, grocery store, right? So if you're on VS Code or an IDE, somewhat like it, you won't be able to actually do the whole scanner thing by clicking run, because as you can see, this thing is a read-only editor. You can't really like enter stuff in it, right? Cannot edit in read-only editor. So you're gonna have to use the command line to enter input for the program. There's another thing called terminal. It's basically command line, but like it's like placed inside of VS Code. It's also on IntelliJ. I'm not sure about other IDEs, but it's on these two for sure. And you could use these in order to enter input for the program. So as you could see, I could just copy paste this actually. I'm gonna enter this program, change the name because that's important. Apply that. All right, and then public. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So as you can see, I'll try running it right now. It won't work because I'll keep going forever with no continuation. So as you can see, I can't really enter anything here. So I'll do control. No, I'm so gonna go here and stop code run. So I'm gonna go back to our command line and I'm gonna physically like run the program. So Oh, Java C day3.java. Now it just like basically updated the previous class file, and now we're going to run it again. So now, oops, forgot to remove the hello world. That's fine. So our length, we're going to put maybe 6 this time, width 20. Now the area is 120 because 6 times 20 is 120. So yeah, that's basically how you can get input from the user in VS Code and online IDEs like Repl/JDoodle and print them out and do whatever you want with them. Go have fun with them. I'll do one more problem, right? So here, so make a program to identify whether an integer is even or odd. Print true if even and false if odd. You can pause here now and attempt it on your own, and I'll go over it right now, right? Magic of YouTube. So I'll do on Replit. So here we go, right? So I'm going to get an integer from the user, int x equals in.next int x, and now what we're going to do is print out whether it's even or odd. If you guys are familiar with if else statements, you could do that, but here's what I think is a better method. So what we're just going to do is print out x mod 2 equals 0. So what this means is that if a number divided by 2, if the remainder when you divide a number by 2 is 0, that means the number is even, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, they're all divisible by 2. So the remainder when you divide them by 2 is 0, so they're all even. So for testing whether it's even or odd, all we can do is just do x mod 2 equal to 0. There's another thing you could do, like x and 1 equal to, if that's equal to 1, if you AND it, which is a bitwise operator with 1, that means the last bit will be a 1 as well. So that means no matter what, it will be an odd number. So that's another trick, but this is more simple. So x mod 2 equal to 0. So if a number is divisible by 2, it's automatically even, otherwise it's odd. So that's all we can do, just do x mod 2 equal to 0. And yeah, this will be here forever, I guess. So I'm going to give in 8. 8 is divisible by 2, so print out 0. 8 mod 2 equal 8 mod 2 is 0. 0 is 0, right? I'll try it again, but I'll give a number like, well, all right. I'll give this giant number, enter the 5. Oh, too long, I guess. All right, I'll give it a simple number like 17. So 17 is not divisible by 2 and therefore not even, so it's odd, and that's why I print out false. So that's a quick solution to that. Thanks for joining. Stay tuned for day 4 information, and be sure to check our website at hackathonforkids.com and sign our general interest form, right? So thank you and have a great day.